What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024, and I have an emergency alert to share with you guys. Right now, it is 21:37 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Europe and the Middle East. So, what you're looking at here are some U.S. nuclear war command and control planes up in the air tonight, and also a presidential doomsday plane up in the air. So, we have three Boeing E-6B Mercury nuclear war command and control planes in the air right now. We have one off the coast of Virginia, looping off the continental shelf, communicating with our submerged nuclear armed submarines, sending out nuclear attack options to them. We also have one over New Mexico and one over California. And then we have this presidential doomsday plane that was flying with its transponder off. Now, these nuclear war command and control planes are responsible for communicating with U.S. nuclear forces during a nuclear war. They can communicate with very low frequency, which is resistant to the effects of radiation. And the presidential doomsday plane is for the president to command U.S. nuclear forces in a nuclear war from the air. So our nuclear forces are on high alert. There was a flurry of emergency action messages broadcasted earlier this afternoon, and then they quieted down. And tonight it is quiet, but it does look like our military is on high alert. And French strategic forces just carried out a nuclear war exercise called the Durandal, which ended with the launch of a live ASMPA-R hypersonic nuclear capable missile without a nuclear warhead. These missiles can carry a new warhead with a blast yield of 300 kilotons. And these missiles can also be fired from the French Rafale fighter jets. The ASMPAR was fired without a warhead by a plane in an exercise above national territory at the end of a flight representing a nuclear air raid. Sébastien Lecornu, the French defense minister, said in a statement. In a separate post on Twitter, he congratulated all the forces, defense ministry teams, and industrial partners involved in a long-planned operation. The French nuclear missile test came a day after Russia began nuclear drills in its southern military district, which borders Ukraine and includes part of the country Moscow claims to have annexed. Lecornu's statement said the French drill aimed to uphold the credibility of the airborne nuclear element of deterrence alongside France's submarine-launched weapons. France plans to spend about 13% of its military budget over the coming years on its independent nuclear capability, including upgrading to next-generation air-launched missiles by 2035. So this is huge news, guys. Okay, France has decided to carry out a nuclear war exercise with their Rafale fighter jets and hypersonic nuclear-capable missiles today, literally a day after Russia began their tactical nuclear weapons exercises in the southern military district of Russia. Belarus is also involved in this, but this is very concerning, guys. Okay, remember, anytime Russia says that they're doing drills, it's actually a combat deployment. That's what they did with Ukraine. Okay, they said, oh, we're just moving troops around inside of our borders. Doesn't mean we're necessarily trying to invade anyone. Sure enough, they did. And now they're basically putting all their missiles on combat alert. And if necessary, Putin can launch if he wants to, because everything has been brought up to a ready status. Okay. And I've talked about the Azov Mena prophecy several times. If you don't know what it is, look it up. Pastor Philip Barnett. This update was sponsored by My Patriot Supply. Guys, My Patriot Supply has brought back their 25% discount on their 3-month emergency food supply. And to get the discount, you got to use the link preparewithnyprepper.com. And the link is in the description below this video. But this 3-month emergency food supply has a 25-year shelf life. It includes over 2,000 calories per day, breakfasts, lunches, dinners, drinks, and snacks, all contained within 6 rugged water-resistant buckets, and free shipping is included. So use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get $200 off or 25% off of the My Patriot Supply 3-month emergency food supply. The link is in the description below this video. Free shipping is included. They also have a general store where they sell all kinds of prepping and survival products, and they're always running various discounts. And to get to their general store, you just got to click on the My Patriot Supply logo when you get to preparewithnyprepper.com at the top of the page, and you'll see their general store where they sell all kinds of prepping and survival products, and they're always running discounts here. So use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get 25% off of the My Patriot Supply 3-month emergency food supply, and the link is in the description below this video. He's an American pastor from Oklahoma who had a church in Kiev, Ukraine for many years, and he had a vision in which God showed him an attack on Ukraine by Russia. The first phase of the attack would be a ground invasion, and the second phase would be a nuclear attack on 8 major cities in Ukraine. So that could happen, guys. That could happen any week now, okay? And we have another human case of bird flu here in the U.S. Apparently, this was in Michigan. Someone got the bird flu from dairy cows, and this is coming the same day as a person in Australia got the bird flu, the first bird flu case in Australia. Okay, so this could potentially be disease X. Okay, they talked about this over New Year's. The World Economic Forum and the elites, they discussed this disease X, okay, which would basically be like COVID on steroids. And the Chinese military has started drills around all of Taiwan, including the islands of Kinmen and Dongyin. Okay, now there's American troops on one of those islands in the Kinmen Island, which is literally just like a mile off the coast of China mainland. There's several groups of U.S. special forces there training the Taiwanese and conducting black ops. And so, if China invades the Kinmen Island and our soldiers get killed, that could bring us into a war with China. Okay. We also have some major breaking news. Klaus Schwab has apparently resigned from his post as president of the World Economic Forum. That is extremely interesting. And here we have some video footage coming out of Russia. This was earlier today. You can see this train full of military hardware heading towards the border of Ukraine near the Sumy Oblast. And what's interesting is that there are these special trucks for crossing water. Okay, they're like mobile bridges. The truck parks and then it extends out this bridge, and then vehicles can drive over the bridge. Okay, so this is very, very concerning. And the Russian Ministry of Defense reported that the first stage of the exercise with practical training in the preparation and use of tactical nuclear weapons has begun in the Southern Military District. The Russian military said that as part of this stage, the personnel of the military formations of the Southern Military District are practicing combat training tasks of obtaining special ammunition for the Iskander tactical missile system, equipping launch vehicles with them, and covertly advancing to the designated position area in preparation for missile launches. Okay, so I have some video footage I'm going to share with you guys of that, but that is huge news. They're basically practicing loading missiles onto the Iskanders and then driving them off into launch zones. Okay, so basically, by loading up the Iskanders with tactical nuclear weapons, these eye scanners are already loaded and ready to go. Okay, so unless they actually deload them and take the missiles out, which I don't think they're going to do, I think they're going to leave them loaded and ready to fire. Okay, so this is huge news, guys. Okay, and Putin is going to be visiting Belarus in the coming days after his recent visit to Beijing. So that is a red flag. Okay. Remember, after Putin visited China, the Russian Foreign Ministry said that his visit to China would change the world. And now he's going to Belarus. Very concerning, guys. Okay. I think Putin talked with Xi Jinping about an attack on the Baltics with Belarus, specifically Lithuania, to try to get the land bridge to Kaliningrad. So I think it's going to happen, guys. I think we're going to see it in the coming days and weeks. And when that happens, I will go live 24/7 to cover it. And British people should have at least 3 days worth of canned food and water, the government says. A new website advising on what to do in an emergency is being launched as part of the British government's push to ensure that Britain is more resilient to threats. This comes after Latvia last week released a 90-page wartime survival guide, which goes into detail of what to do during a nuclear attack and preparing fallout shelters as well, and what to do in the event of an invasion and occupation, urging citizens to resist. The Polish defense minister said 2 weeks ago that people should have bug out bags. So here's the actual website, okay? This is prepare.campaign.gov.uk. All right. How would you prepare for an emergency? Okay. So isn't it interesting? Britain, Latvia, Poland, all urging citizens to prepare for an emergency. I'm telling you guys, something is about to go down in Europe that's going to affect NATO itself, okay? And Sweden has warned that Putin has his eyes on the Gotland Island. Very interesting. And they're concerned about these shadow tankers that have been operating off the coast of Gotland Island recently. And that's an island in the middle of the Baltic Sea. And the Russian Foreign Ministry threatened France, saying that if France sends troops to Ukraine, the response will not be political. There was an air raid alert earlier in Ukraine across the entire country. Several hypersonic capable MiG-31K fighter jets were airborne. No word yet on the damage, but it does look like a serious strike. And I want to remind you guys that on May the 15th, satellite imagery showed that nearly 2/3 of Russia's combat capable bombers are now at the Olenya Air Base, which is the air base that Russia uses to launch strikes on Ukraine. While they're there now, most of Russia's combat capable bombers, okay, over 26 bombers of various types, Tu-95s, Tu-22s, and Tu-160s. So it looks like Russia's preparing for a massive airstrike in the coming days or weeks, potentially to support a new invasion. And what you're looking at here is the current situation in the Kharkiv Oblast. You can see the Russian forces have penetrated the Ukrainian border here, and they've taken over a significant chunk of the northern part of the Kharkiv Oblast. They've already leveled a lot of these towns here, and they are slowly moving towards the city itself. Now, Russia doesn't actually have to capture the whole city. They can just rubble it and turn it into a ghost town, essentially. And the second largest city in Ukraine is going to become a ghost town. And that would be a huge blow to Ukraine's economy. Okay. And U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson appeared to endorse enabling Ukraine to strike targets in Russian territory with U.S. supplied weapons on May 22nd. Responding to a question from Voice of America about the current American policy that restricts the usage, Johnson said the U.S. should allow Ukraine to persecute the war in the way they see fit. Ukraine needs to be able to fight back, and I think us trying to micromanage the effort there is not a good policy for us, he added. Wow. So strong words there criticizing the Biden administration, because the Biden administration has been trying to micromanage the Ukrainians, forcing them to fight Mike Tyson with both hands tied behind their back. You're not going to get anywhere, okay? The U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan distanced himself from an assertion by the UK Defense Secretary Grant Shapps, who said earlier today that the US and UK have evidence that China is supplying or about to supply lethal aid to Russia. Okay, so Jake Sullivan refusing to admit that China is going to start supplying Russia with weapons. Okay, why is that? Because he doesn't want the Biden administration to look stupid. Okay, but if China starts supplying weapons to Russia, it's basically over, because NATO has not done what needs to be done to produce enough ammunition, and China has billions and billions of people, and they can spin up factories like crazy and start, pumping out millions and millions of rounds of ammunition. And NATO has not gone into a wartime production. So it would be a really bad situation if this is true. And Zelensky at the G7 summit to be held next month will ask other countries to shoot down Russian missiles over Ukraine, just like they did for Israel. This is being reported by Politico. And the Romanian president outlined the conditions of sending Ukraine a Patriot missile defense system. Romanian President Klaus Iohannis stated that supplying a Patriot system to Ukraine must be approved by the Supreme Council of National Defense and must not compromise Romania's air defense. Even if Romania finally makes some concessions, it must receive something in return. Otherwise, nothing will happen, Iohannis said. Okay, so Romania wants something in return, and they want to make sure that their air defense is not going to be compromised. The Swedish government has agreed on a program of additional military support for Ukraine totaling $7 billion. The money will be evenly distributed over 3 years, Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson said. And a German government spokesperson says it would execute a potential International Criminal Court arrest warrant against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel. Wow. And Spain will join Ireland and Norway in recognizing Palestine as an independent country. And an anti-Israeli protester dangerously approached the Secretary of State Anthony Blinken today during a congressional hearing and was swiftly removed by Capitol Police. And Nikki Haley says she's going to vote for Donald Trump in the November election this year. And what you're looking at here is a picture showing the flight paths of 2 American reconnaissance drones that were flying over the Black Sea yesterday. So we could potentially see some massive strikes on Crimea very soon. Here we have video footage coming out of Russia showing those tactical nuclear exercises. Okay, so here you can see the Iskander missile systems. These are short-range ballistic missiles. And so they're loading these missiles up into the launchers and practicing driving out to launch zones. And what's interesting is they blurred out some sections of these missiles. Now, this missile right here appears to be a banned long-range cruise missile or intermediate-range cruise missile. That's the one that caused Trump to pull out of the INF. Okay, look, you see how they blurred the warhead? The tip of the missile is blurred. So this is serious, guys. Okay, they've put their Iskander missile systems on high alert, and you see this thing right here? This is a medium-range cruise missile. I think this is the one that motivated Trump to pull out of the INF treaty, okay, because this thing can reach anywhere in Europe. So very, very concerning. I think it's called the SSC-8 screwdriver. Okay, this is not a ballistic missile. It's actually a cruise missile. And there are the Iskanders. Okay, so this is extremely concerning, guys. And this is not just a drill. Okay, these are actually deployments. Okay, Russia is preparing and deploying their nuclear weapons for short range to medium range use against Ukraine and Eastern Europe and maybe even Western Europe as well. Okay, and here's a MiG 31. Okay, that's the jet that Russia uses to deploy their hypersonic missiles. And here we have some video footage coming out of Iran showing the funeral procession for the president of Iran and the foreign minister of Iran. So thought I would just share that with you guys. These are the caskets. Okay, there's the casket of Raisi, the former president. And Putin was at this funeral. And then here's the casket for the foreign minister. So interesting. And then here we have video footage coming from Congress showing Blinken about to get attacked by some anti-Israel protesters. Check this out.
Of China. He is a war criminal. The blood of 40,000 people is on his hands. The blood of 40,000 Palestinians is on his hands. He is a war criminal. He is a war criminal. Lincoln is a war criminal. The blood of 40,000 people is on his hands.
So pretty interesting. And we have Joseph Borrell, the top diplomat of the EU, reminding people that the International Criminal Court rulings have to be enforced by all countries. He says here on Twitter, the mandate of the ICC as an independent international institution is to prosecute the most serious crimes under international law. All states that have ratified the ICC statutes are bound to execute the court's decisions. He's talking about Netanyahu. So that's the latest breaking news that I have. I will be back tomorrow with more breaking news. I'm going to be monitoring the situation with our nuclear forces. And if anything happens, I will go live. So until tomorrow, take care. God bless. And don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.